Hi, my name is Dana Hutchinson, and I am the lead medical herbalist and owner of the Wildflower Clinic, a local herbal medical apothecary in Denver, Colorado, located in the Highlands Health and Wellness Center on the second floor. So, a lot of my clients want to know how I got into this medical herbalism practitioner role and kind of how that journey started for me. And the story's quite long, but just to give you a little bit of more background about me and how I got here is really it all started with a chronic autoimmune condition called lichen sclerosis. So it's somewhat rare in terms of the autoimmune umbrella, and it's an autoimmune condition that affects the vaginal tissue, typically in prepubescent females. Of course, this disease can strike at any age, as it did with me when I was about 20 years old. So that was the first time I began to see some exacerbations of this condition. Typically, it can present in white patches on the vaginal tissue or small lesions, cuts, scrapes, burning, a lot of itching. It also can present as the labial tissue fusing as well. So for me, this was a pretty scary time in terms of my health history. I was chronically ill all the time. I was getting recurrent UTIs. My mother was diagnosed with a chronic terminal brain cancer diagnosis, and I was really treating my body terribly at this time. I was eating a standard American diet. I was drinking alcohol 4 to 5 times a week, and I really wasn't taking care of myself at all. This was pretty much a perfect storm for an autoimmune condition to present itself, and it did just that. So that's when I really found myself in a medical office, and really I had that 5 minutes to explain what was going on, a small examination, and I walked home with steroids and an immunosuppressant drug. And they said, call us if it gets worse. And that was kind of when I thought, oh my gosh, it couldn't get worse. I can barely walk. Intercourse with my partner, who's still my partner today, was out of the question. I had lesions, I had cuts. It was excruciating. And so that was obviously a terrible moment. And, that really led me to look elsewhere in terms of natural health. I just couldn't believe that that was what the medical world decided was my future, was taking steroids, taking these drugs, and eventually it would go away. It just didn't make sense to me. And that's where I found myself walking past a Chinese doctor's office that was essentially a hole in the wall in Sydney, and it said, "Don't tell me what's wrong with you, I'll tell you what's wrong with you." And that was really my first introduction to a natural health perspective in terms of a health condition. So I went into the doctor and, without me telling him anything, he looked at my pulse, he looked at my skin, he looked at my nails, and he really looked at my whole vitality signs and told me that, my immune system was out of whack. I had a disharmony all throughout my body. My heart, shen, spirit was blocked. And to me at that time, I had no idea what any of these things meant. He looked at my tongue, he looked at the whole vitality of my body. And with that was my first introduction to a treatment protocol from a Chinese perspective. So at that time, that's when I really decided, oh my gosh, I want to dedicate my life to this. I want to help other people who have disharmonies and help them see that there is a way to recovery. There is a way to reverse disease, and specifically autoimmune conditions. That's why I work with it so closely now is, I feel that through my extensive education and study and clinical trials into this area, I really am able to ideally help people reverse their autoimmune condition or maintain that condition with herbal medicine. So one thing led to another. I began to study Chinese herbalism. I began to study Western medical herbalism and studied under the Institute of Chinese Herbology, studied under Paul Bergner at the North American Institute of Medical Herbalism, and completed the 3-year module at the Colorado School of Clinical Herbalism under Lisa Ganora and Kat McKinnon, and finished the final certification there. I'm also a flower essence practitioner because I think that the mental and physical balance of the body is so essential. I'm also a Reiki therapist and a yoga teacher for the retreats that we run for corporate and consumers around the world. But yeah, that's a little bit about my story. So thanks so much for listening. And I truly believe that everyone has a chance to boost vitality. And even if you're not dealing with a chronic condition, come on into the Wildflower Clinic and we can definitely help you start to feel better, start to feel more vital, more balanced, and also as a preventative so that we can stay one step ahead of disease instead of always treating it in a reactive manner. So thanks so much, and that's a little bit about my story. I hope that you enjoyed hearing about it. Thanks so much.